Today is the first step toward hand-eye coordination drawing by observing the negative space to draw the positive one. Hello everyone and welcome to the fifth lesson of the second chapter of the first book of the Art Journey series. In this lesson we're going to talk about the negative space. The negative space means the space around your object. Everything that shows behind or through or around your object can be considered a negative space. We will go into the different types of negative space later, but for now it's simply drawing everything that isn't your object of interest. But before we dive into this method, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment down below. The main point of this method of drawing is the same as all the previous videos I already did. Do not identify your object that you are drawing as a thing or a symbol that your brain can recognize, but only as a bunch of lines and forms that needs to be copied as it is, not as you think it is. So if you're drawing the negative space as an outline of an object, you are doing this wrong. You need to draw the unidentified surrounding space as an object by itself, and by doing that, you end up with the outline of your actual object. This exercise is a great help in pushing your observation skills forward. Just like it did with drawing the upside down, the grid method, and the blind contour method, this will also force your brain to focus on the lines of the unidentified shapes, to draw as it is without the possibility to turn it into symbols drawn from memory. Doing this exercise will force you to draw what you see, since you can't understand what you are drawing anyway. All these methods in the series are made to deprogram your brain to stop making you seeing things the way you think it is rather than it really is in real life. That's why it's heavily focused on the lines, the shapes, or the forms rather than the face, the object, or the animal you are drawing. Labels has to be removed from the observed world in order for it to be drawn right. If you can't name them, your brain won't see anything but bunch of lines. This is simply the essence of drawing things correctly. This exercise is the first step toward actual drawing skills that will carry you on all the way in your journey. This is the first step of angles and measurements that you will use to draw anything in front of you. Now we will have a different video on angles and measurements after this one, but this is the first step toward it, the prequel to that video. In this video I will also show you how you should use all the previous methods we talked about before to get the best results you want from it. These methods are not disconnected from each other. They all come together to make you draw your most accurate image that you possibly can. So don't just practice each one by its own. Try multiple methods together, especially if you are not getting the good results from any of them. Later in the series we're gonna do more techniques for drawing, and I will keep adding them to what we learned before, just to keep you connected with what we did so far. I probably should have done this in the previous video, but that's okay. I will start connecting the methods from this video forward. So what are the benefits of these methods on the long run? Other than actually forcing your brain to see lines like we saw with the blind contour and the other methods, this technique will teach you to see shapes correctly. We will see later that once you start layering the negative shapes of an object, you will be able to draw anything you see in front of you, even if it didn't have any actual negative space. You will learn that a head has many layers of shapes on top of each other, that an eye can be considered a negative shape to the rest of the face, and the whiteness of the eye can be considered negative space to the pupil, and so on. The right way to draw the negative space is to divide the drawing into smaller and smaller areas around your object and filling it with black paint bit by bit till you finish the whole background. Do not draw the outline of the positive object. This is not the right way to do it. You are only focusing on the background around the object. An object may have an exterior negative space, semi-interior negative space, or an interior negative space. It also may have many levels of exterior and interior negative space that we will see later in this video. Now, when you start to draw these shapes, try first to go small. Don't divide the whole drawing into 2 or 4 parts. Try it just like we did with the grid. Start with smaller and smaller pieces and then go larger as you get more comfortable. When you do, you will need to observe the size of each piece, the direction of the lines and the angles of it, and the distance horizontally and vertically to its surrounding. This is a precursor to the angles and measurements video that is coming next. So make sure you try to be as accurate as possible. But don't worry if you made mistakes, because this is just step 1 of the process. After you are done with the negative space, you can lower the opacity or even invert the image and draw the outline of the positive shape you just surrounded. By doing this, you would have gotten everything you need from the negative shape, and all is left is adding the details. This is also a great way to learn the concept of starting big and going small, something you will learn a lot in the fundamentals in the second book. But it starts here. You don't start with small details in your drawing, but with larger shapes first. Okay, before I go into the examples, let's draw this optical illusion first. You must have seen this before, which is either the two faces or the vase between them. Now this shows you the importance of the negative space in composition. It can tell the other half of the story when it's done right. Now Betty Edwards chose in this example to draw first in the negative space to show you the constant shift between your two brains, between the logical brain wanting to see the easy, recognizable faces and the right brain seeing the more abstract shape in between. This shift between the two will be constant, and it will keep switching between the two as you try to focus on the abstract. This power grab gonna be much stronger as a beginner artist, since you just begun to see the world with your right brain. So this is a great exercise to see the shift in your vision in real time. So start drawing this by ignoring the positive shape and focusing on the background. But don't take the whole shape at once. Divide it into small pieces and draw each on its own. Try your best to draw the shape in between, not the faces. Fight the urge to know what you are drawing. The only way to draw right is by focusing on the lines and shapes, nothing else. To help you draw, pay attention to the position of the lines, the angles, and the measurements between the lines. Once you finish one area, block it out in black and move on to the next. We will do the same with the next area and block it out as well. If you find the size too big, try to divide the area even smaller till you are comfortable with it. All the fixes I'm doing here is for the shape in between the two faces, not the faces themselves. I'm looking at the shape of the curve and the distance between them, not looking at the nose or a mouth or an eye, just the lines. Now that I'm finished with the background, I can sculpt the negative shape by adding or subtracting from it to match the reference image. I'm 100% unaware of what I'm drawing. All I'm focusing on is the shape in between. And it's done. In this next example, we'll start as always from easy to hard object. This one should be easy, even though I struggled a bit with the symmetry of the shape. Now if I was doing this professionally, I could just simply cut and mirror the half I already done. But I wanted to do it manually to practice the whole thing. So we start by dividing the shape around the object and paint it on its own. Cut the spaces to as much parts as you are comfortable with and pay attention to the angles of the shape and the measurements of its points. I start with the first part and block it out and then move to the next area and so on. You will get the shapes right once you look at the shape you are drawing, comparing it to the background of the image. The size of it will help you detect the errors you may have. Now that I'm done, I feel there is some symmetry issues as I mentioned, so I keep sculpting and sculpting the shape by adding or subtracting from it using a brush and an eraser. When I'm done, I simply invert the shape I drew and outline the positive shape I got from drawing the background, and then add a few details to finish the drawing. You can't go wrong now since you have the outline of the shape drawn exactly as it fits in the background. Okay, now we have a jar with something extra, an interior negative shape in between the handle and the main jar. The rules are the same. Start with the exterior negative space and divide it as much as you want. If you are comfortable enough and practiced enough, you can do the whole thing in one go, just like we did with the grid method. But do not do it right away. Practice on small parts first. Now that we have the exterior negative shape done, we can draw the interior negative shape by observing the distance to the exterior shape. I may got the opening a bit small, but that's okay. I haven't done this exercise in a long time, so you will do better than me, I'm sure. Once you've finished, you can invert the shape, draw the outline, and add few details. Alright, let's go up in the difficulty scale by drawing a chair. Now we go from one interior negative shape to multiple intersecting negative spaces. Some are fully closed interior and some are semi-closed interior spaces. The process is still the same. Divide the background into small shapes and start blocking it out. Starting from the exterior to the interior negative space is easier, but you can also do it the other way around, which I will demonstrate later in this video. Once you are done with the exterior and semi-interior negative spaces, start adding the interior ones. Pay close attention to the relation of the exterior shapes to the interior as you are drawing it. After that, simply invert the image, draw the outline of the object, fix any issues and add small details as you like. Let's do another chair, but this time it's a bit curved, more than straight lined. And this time let's draw the interior space first, then the exterior. When you do that, you may need to draw one connection part from the interior to the exterior before you can draw the rest of the exterior space, just to know where you are on the page. You should really measure it up without drawing it, but I had to draw it to show you what I'm thinking as I'm drawing. If you are doing it yourself, don't draw the positive part, just know where it is as you draw the exterior shapes. You can also close up the semi-interior shapes and draw it as an entity by itself to make things easier. Once you finish, invert the shape, draw the outline, and fix any mistakes. Okay, let's keep complicating things by drawing a cartoon this time. Now you have multiple big and small exterior negative shapes, big and small semi-interior ones, and the same for the fully interior ones. Don't worry, same process as before. Choose what part you want to start from and move to the rest. I recommend starting from the exterior to the interior, as it will make things easier to draw by measuring toward the outside rather than the inside. Once the exterior is done, I can now measure the interior parts compared to the exterior and block out the interior shapes. It's basically sculpting a box-shaped marble into smaller and smaller shapes by cutting the background out of it. Once I'm done, I invert the image, add the outline, and fix any mistakes. Now this may surprise you, but yes, you can draw the figure using this method. Now I don't recommend it on the long run, but if you just started drawing, this will boost your confidence if you do it right, even without knowing anything about anatomy or figure drawing. By the way, if you want to know more about figure drawing, I have a whole series that you can check by clicking on the card showing on the top right there. Okay, here we have the same negative shapes as before, some interior, some exterior shapes, and some semi-interior. Don't get intimidated, don't look at the whole thing. Just at the small pieces of negative space that you are drawing right now. Again, I'm taking the large chunk of this image at once, cause I have done this for years. Go smaller if you can't keep up, it's just like the grid. You will go bigger in scale as you practice more. After finishing the exterior parts, you can now do the interior part between the legs. When I did that, I realized that the measurements are a bit off, so I had to resculpt the background in and out to make sure that the interior part is a bit wider, and fix my mistakes from there. I needed a bit of measurement to the outside part to know how far the negative space is. It's okay to connect the two spaces if you can't tell where to start with the interior negative space. Now I have all the spaces done, I can go around the drawing and fix any mistakes I see. After that I can invert it, draw the outline and add some details. And here it is, a figure drawing drawn by using the negative space. Now this is where we go toward the hard part of this video. A plant with many branches and leaves, with so many negative interior and exterior shapes. This time I'm starting from the interior shape as a reference center, and from there I expand it to the rest of the drawing. It's always easier to start from the outside, but once you practice this a lot, you will know when to start from the interior shapes and when to start from the exterior ones. This time it was best to start with the center and go outside piece by piece. Once you get a part of it done right, you can use this part as the anchor to measure any new part you draw directly to it. This way you can never go wrong. This is something we will talk about much more in the next angle and measurements video. By the way, this was the last video I painted on my old laptop before it broke down. The last drawing ever. The other ones I did here are all from the new tablet. So this is very nostalgic to see it. Anyway, once I'm done with the shape, you can invert it and draw on top of it. But we have done it so many times that this part isn't important to this video anymore. So let's move on to the very important part of this video. Combining techniques we already learned all in one place. In this exercise, we're gonna do all the methods we did before to draw these hands. I want to show you that if you are not getting the right results you expect, you have to combine all the methods together till you reach your goal. These methods are like helpers, little helpers that will fix your drawing and make it look right. It's 100% recommended that you do all of them together before you start any drawing. And only when you practice all of them many times for many days, you can start shedding these methods one by one till you can draw on your own. Think of it as the engines on a rocket flying toward space. A rocket may start with 8 engines, but as they rise up to the heavens, they start shedding one by one till they fly on their own. Same with these methods. So let's say you found out that these hands are too hard to draw using the negative space on its own. So what to do now? Okay, let's go through the list. Let's first start draw them by using the blind contour method. Maybe even before that you can trace them if you want. For a couple of times, that's totally fine too. But for now, let's move the page away from the reference and do a full blind contour method. Couple of times till your mind is now focused on the lines of the hands. Once you're done, move your page back toward the reference, flip the image upside down like we did before, and add a grid on top of it. Now, your negative space has to be smaller because you are dealing with a very small background in every single square. So when you are doing 4 methods at the same time for one drawing, there is no way you can get this wrong. You may get few details off, but not the whole thing. It's literally impossible to draw this wrong once you practice all these methods. Now we can fill in the negative space around the hands using the grid. Now I'm going a bit faster here, but you can go with the square by square instead of the whole thing like I'm doing. It will just take a bit longer, but it will be more accurate. When you finish the main shape, remove the grid, flip it back, and invert the negative space. Now you can draw the positive outline, fix any mistakes, and add details to your liking. Now if you had a problem with the second hand on top of the first, you can draw the negative space for that hand as if the other hand doesn't exist. This way you will have another negative space to identify the first hand. It will help you draw it correctly. Now I did the same thing here, but the only difference I did it mentally, not on the paper, which is a preview of what this method should be like once you practice it a lot. This whole thing will be done in your mind without adding anything on paper. All of them. All these methods should be on your mind as you're drawing, but you can't reach that point until you do it over and over and over. This is the end goal of the method. Just like we saw with the grid, you will end up measuring things as if there is a grid, but in reality there isn't. In this final example, I will show you that negative space can be layered on top of each other. Once you master drawing the background of the object, now you can apply the negative concept to inner positive shapes inside one object. As we saw before with the hands, a portrait can be divided into layered positive and negative shapes. For example, here we have the normal negative shape around the positive shape of the head. Then we have the interior negative shapes of the earrings and a bit of the hair. That's what we learned so far. But here we're gonna add the hair itself as a negative shape to the rest of the head. Then we go another layer up and add the shoulder and the neck as a negative shape compared to the head itself. After that, we can also consider the eyes, the eyebrows, the nostrils, the mouth as negative shapes to the face itself. This way you can use this method to know where the form starts and where it ends. This is the logical conclusion to this method. To know your shapes, and by that, you know your forms and outlines. Okay, let's start with the exterior negative shape first. And then we do the earrings and the hair. As you can see, I'm no longer blocking things here because the blocking part should be done mentally, not on paper. You can't keep blocking off your paper in black as you're drawing. It should be all in your head. Again, this is the end goal of the method. Don't start from here, start from the beginning. I just want to make sure to include this part in my videos so you can know where to begin, how to practice from easy to hard, and finally how to get rid of the training wheels as you move forward. I think this is the best way to teach these basic methods to new artists. This way you know what comes next and where to go from here. So after finishing the exterior negative shapes and the interior ones, I finished the hair and the neck and finally started with the final layer of the shapes inside the head. The eyes, the mouth, the nose and the eyebrows. After I finish the outline, I can relax and enjoy the detailing part. Okay, now I have to stop myself, otherwise I will take another 10 hours turning this into a final painting. This isn't really a part of the video, I just forgot what I'm doing for a second and just enjoyed this as a relaxing painting. So with this is it for the negative shapes. Always start small and with easy objects and move on step by step and layer by layer till you finally have the whole process memorized in your brain. And hopefully it will add another layer in your deprogramming your brain into shedding the symbolism of your childhood away from your observation skills. Now to the homework. As always, there is an easy homework and a hardcore one, if you are up to it. For the easy homework, you can start out with a small easy objects like a jar or a vase with different interior and exterior shapes. Do 10 of those. Once you are done, move to the chairs with different shapes and angles. Do 5 of those. Next, pick 3 cartoons characters and draw the negative shapes as well. Then 3 figures, and after that, try different hands or complicated shapes and try to do it using all the methods like I showed you with the hands. And finally, once you've finished all of them, try to do a portrait thinking about all the negative shapes and layers you see in the portrait. If your portrait looked wrong, go back and do another patch of exercises and try again. It's always good to try the portrait before and after these exercises to see how far you got with every patch of exercises. If you are still off, go back to the other videos and do the homework again. I did 8 to 10 hours a day for a whole year for these methods alone before my drawings got better. So don't expect it to work in one day. This is not realistic. Your brain is a muscle and it needs a lot of practice. Okay, that's the easy homework. If you want to go hardcore, do the same things but with 30 easy objects, 50 chairs, 10 cartoons, 10 figure drawings. After that, practice all methods on 10 hard objects that you can find. Once you're done, do 3 portraits and see how it goes. By doing this homework, you will end up with 22 drawings for the easy mode and 78 drawings for the hardcore mode. The more you practice, the better you will learn how to draw the negative shapes and the faster you will get better at drawing forms and shapes. That's it for lesson 5 of the first book of the Art Journey series. It's the 4th exercise in a long list of exercises for the beginners yet to come. Before I go, I'd like to thank my patrons who donated to my channel. If you'd like to donate, please go to patreon.com/rainwalker. Thank you all for your generosity. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more art tutorials for beginners, paintings, or visual library series. Please click the subscribe button under this video to stay tuned and click the notification bell to stay up to date with new videos. Oh, and one last thing. I will post later a video for the new membership for this channel. It will be just another option for you if you don't want to go to Patreon and you want all your bills in one place, so you can do it here on YouTube. Don't worry, just like Patreon, not gonna change anything, it's just mainly a tip jar. You will understand it more by seeing the video I'm gonna make about it. YouTube wants me to make a video for the memberships as if it's the greatest news for the subscribers. I will do the complete opposite of that. It will be really a funny video, or at least I hope so. But for now, if you want to see other videos for beginners, please click here. Or if you want to check out how to draw the head series, which has so many methods in it like Andrew Loomis or Frank Riley, you can click on it over here. As for now, thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next video.